Science in context. What scientific attitudes help generate new ideas? Curiosity, skepticism, open-mindedness, and creativity. All these help scientists generate new ideas. Good scientists share scientific attitudes or habits of mind that lead them to exploration and discovery. Scientific methodology is closely linked to exploration and discovery. Scientific methodology starts with observations and questions that may be inspired by scientific attitudes, practical problems, and new technology. In this diagram, we have scientific methods are interacting with exploration and discovery, communication and results with others, and science and society with everyone else, non-scientific. Curiosity is to say, what is happening here? What is this plant? Why does it grow here? Often results from previous studies also spark curiosity and lead to new questions. Skepticism. Good scientists are always skeptics, which means they question existing ideas and hypotheses, and they refuse to accept explanations without evidence. Open-mindedness is a characteristic of a good scientist, meaning they are willing to accept different ideas that may not agree with their hypothesis. How to be more open-minded? Practice your listening skills. Slow down, ask questions, and stay curious. Creativity. Researchers need to think creatively to design repeatable experiments that yield accurate results. So on practical problems, sometimes ideas from scientific investigations arise from practical problems. For example, people living in a strip of land along a coast may face flooding and other problems. These problems inspire scientific questions, hypotheses, and experiments. In technology, science and society are closely linked in your exploration. These combine to make in exploration and discovery. You're making observations, you're asking questions, exploring the literature of others, and you're finding inspiration from those, and sharing ideas and data. Surprising observations, personal motivation, practical problems, and new technology. Discoveries in one field of science may lead to new technologies, which enable scientists in other fields to ask new questions or to gather data in new ways. Technological advances may also have big impacts on daily life. In the field of genetics and biotechnology, for instance, it is now possible to mass produce complex substances such as vitamins, antibiotics, and hormones that before were only available naturally. Communicating results and reviewing and sharing idea. What is the important part about peer review? Publishing peer-reviewed articles in scientific journals allows researchers to share ideas and to evaluate and repeat the work. So in peer review, scientists share the findings with scientific community by publishing articles that have undergone peer review. In peer review, scientific papers are reviewed by anonymous, independent experts. So in this communication is feedback and peer review. Replication of results can be done. These new ideas feed into these. Discussion with colleagues and publication. So reviewers read the articles and they look for oversights, unfair influences, fraud, mistakes, or techniques or reasoning that didn't work. They provide expert assessment of the work to ensure that the highest standards of quality are met. Once research has been published, it may spark new questions. Each logical and important question leads to new hypotheses that may be independently confirmed by controlled experiments. For example, the findings that growth of salt marsh grass is limited by available nitrogen suggests that nitrogen might be a limiting nutrient for mangroves or other plants in similar habitats. Ideally, all reviews are unbiased. When might this not be the case? In this peer review, when are they not unbiased? There's a few examples. DDT was considered an insecticide that was healthy, but we found out it was not. Tobacco was considered a calming drug for anxiety. We found that it has other detriments that's much more significant. And oxycodone, a painkiller that is now considered addictive, but initially was not. All three of these were publicized as good, but the detriments far outweighed the benefits. What is a scientific theory? In science, the word theory applies to a well-tested explanation that unifies a broad range of observations and hypotheses that enable scientists to make accurate predictions about new situations. Evidence from many scientific studies may support several related hypotheses in a way that inspires researchers to propose a scientific theory that ties these hypotheses together. A useful theory that has been thoroughly tested and supported by many lines of evidence may become the dominant view among the majority of scientists. But no theory is considered absolute truth. Science is always changing, and as new evidence is uncovered, a theory may be revised or replaced by a more useful explanation. So what is the relationship between science and society? Using science involves understanding its context in society and its limitations. Many questions that affect our lives require scientific information to answer, and many have inspired important research. But none of these questions can be answered by science alone. Scientific questions involve the society in which we live, our economy, our laws, and moral principles. For example, researchers test shellfish for toxins that can poison humans. Should shellfish be routinely screened for toxins? What are some examples in which science and economics, morals, and or politics intersect? When scientists explain why something happens, their explanation involves only natural phenomena. Pure science does not include ethics and moral viewpoints. For example, biologists try to explain in scientific terms what life is and how it operates, but science cannot answer questions about why life exists or what the meaning of life is. So in science and society, we have develop technology, address societal issues, inform policy, build knowledge, satisfy curiosity, solve everyday problems. All of these intertwine together. Similarly, science can tell us how technology and scientific knowledge can be applied, but not whether it should be applied in particular ways. The way that science is applied in society can be affected by bias, which is a particular preference or point of view that is personal rather than scientific. Science aims to be objective, but scientists are human too. Sometimes scientific data can be misinterpreted or misapplied by scientists who want to prove a particular point. So the recommendations made by scientists with personal bias may or may not be in the public interest. But when we are alert and understand science, we can help make certain that science is applied in ways that benefit humanity. Don't memorize today's scientific facts and ideas. Instead, try to understand how scientists develop these ideas. Try to see the thinking behind the experiments and try to pose the kinds of questions scientists ask. Understanding science will help you be comfortable in a world that will keep changing and will help you make complex decisions that also involve cultural customs, values, and ethical standards. Understanding biology will help you realize that we humans can predict the consequences of our actions and take an active role in directing our future and that of our planet. Scientists make recommendations about big public policy decisions, but it is the voting citizens who influence public policy by casting ballots. In a few years, you'll be able to exercise the right to vote. That's why it is important you understand how science works and appreciate both the power and the limitations of science.